Todd, what's up?
Good morning. How are you?
Morning. Good. I want to come back to a conversation from another video we shot, but again, first of all, tell people a little about the SouthCity group and what we do and maybe what's a distinction about it, how it differentiates itself perhaps.
Yeah, you bet. So South City Group is just a small boutique executive coaching and executive development firm. And just what that means is we come alongside leaders, business owners, CEOs, vice presidents of organizations, anyone in the business world, and help them galvanize greatness in themselves, in their teams, in their families, in their organizations, which is just calling forth something better, a better version of yourself. So that's pretty much what we do as executive coaches. And our uniqueness is that we're trained on both sides of psychology. So in fact, you and I are both actually licensed marriage and family therapists on the clinical side of psychology. And then we're also trained on the leadership side, on the executive coaching. So that helps us kind of blend kind of both fields together to really kind of help people become the better version of themselves.
Yeah. And, I was thinking about how when I go into an organization, sometimes I'll joke, I'll say, this isn't therapy because they know I was clinically trained, this is coaching. And they all say, well, you can do this in therapy if you want to. But I feel like now more than ever, even there was an article, I think about 3 weeks ago in New York Times, how some organizations are actually calling therapists in, and what I've noticed is lots of people asking about communication and relationships during this time. And so I thought we'd take a few minutes and just talk about maybe some tips if we're living with, a spouse or we're roommates or we're working as a team and we got people that we're, managing down or managing up. Let's talk about some ideas in terms of how to maybe up the communication, how we can get on the same page, what's really important during this time.
So is that assuming that we already do this well with our own spouses?
No, in fact, I say people do as I say, not as I do.
I know. We're going to be guilty of going, oh, great. He's going to ask that question. Wait, did I do that well this week?
No, I caught my wife watching one of the videos I shot the other day, and I said, just pretend like all that's true. She's like, no, it's good. It's good. I know, but behind the scenes, I think we're all struggling is the point really, right? We're all navigating this.
We're trying to figure out, I would say in the most simple terms is you got to tune in. You really got to tune in to your spouse. You just got to have your radar on. We can get so locked into trying to be productive and trying to be focused on producing really great work that we just can almost lose sight on what is going on around me in the house. Your spouse has got their own world of stuff going on. Your kids have got their own world of stuff going on. Are you tuning in or not? So I'd say it starts with tune in. Whatever you need to do to tune in. For me, honestly, I had to make sure I did not lose my morning ritual. That was my first thing that I had to keep anchored in. Is I had to keep waking up early. It's tempting to just, if I'm not traveling or I don't have to catch an early flight to visit a client because all travel has been shut down, as the rest of the world has. It's tempting to throw away our habits, but I had to keep my morning habit and in my morning ritual and routine. Thinking about my family, and I'm thinking about what's going on with my wife today. What is the most important thing for her today? Kind of the technique when I'm working with leaders and their spouses that I'll say, hey, my wife and I just call it a win-win. Hey, what's your win? What is your win today? What for you at the end of today, for you to said today was a win? What needs to happen for you? And we do that today. And so like that happened this morning. I just sat with my wife and I said, what's a win for you today? And if I'm tuning in and asking that question, it tells her I'm tuned in, and she asks me that question too, and we're just tuned into each other. And then at least that says, hey, no matter what's going to happen, it could be completely chaotic. We could be, by the end of the day, we'd be like, oh my gosh, it wasn't a win, but we were tuned in. So at least we're starting with some kind of foresight and forethought of intentionality about being for each other.
Yeah, I've tried the night before or the morning of to ask, what's on your plate today? What's on your schedule? How can I support you? Here's some things I'd like to do. It reminds me of it was probably like 10 years ago when you and I were doing some retreat, kind of intensive work with couples, you use the metaphor of tennis and about the win-win. Do you remember talking about
Yeah.
doubles tennis?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And if you're in a relationship with someone, you both are standing on the same side of the net. But if you get mad, I remember, and you just slam the ball against the net, well, you both lose the point. It's not a win-win.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the win-win ultimately, right, is that we both walk away as winners. We both get something out of it that we want. One person doesn't walk away with their head down. That's always been a metaphor stuck in my head. We're both on, if it's a spouse or a team, we're on the same side of the net trying to score the same point. So
Bingo.
what about it if you're, leading an organization right now in terms of communication and trying to, find a win-win for your team right now? What are some things that you think are really helpful?
Well, a lot of conversations that I'm having with a lot of leaders, especially those that are I would call the stakeholders, people that are
Yeah.
decision makers, that are either the heads of the teams or at the top, they can actually influence the culture. I would say right now, everyone has to be aware of how your people are doing working at home. Because if you just think that the only thing that's changed is that you're doing Zoom calls and everybody's just working in their house, but they're able to pull off the same level of work, you're living in a bubble. That's not the reality.
Yeah.
I was talking to someone the other day, and his two kids came up from the basement, and the wife was out on a run, and his two kids got in a fight right behind him. And he said, "Hey, hold on a second." I'm like, "Dude, we can jump off the call. We don't even have to do this call right now. Like, your call with me is the least important thing right now." He's like, "Really?" I was like, "Yes. Go be a dad. Go be a dad." Now, I know business has to get done, but I think for leaders in your teams, if you're leading a team, be aware of everybody's in the same situation where they're trying to figure out how to do this and how to do it well. Because if your kids are fighting, I don't care how attuned you look on the call, you are wildly distracted
Yeah.
and you're irritated. And that irritation is not helping you be creative and winsome, which is actually what your team needs right now. And so knowing when it's not time to get on a call or when it's not time to be really productive, but it's time to be a mom or a dad or a partner or someone to take care of yourself. So leading teams, we've got to be aware that this is a whole new thing. It's not just digital. It's how do we get really focused, work really well together, and take really good care of ourselves first so that we can put out a really creative product of excellence.
Yeah, I think my son was about to walk in a few minutes ago, and I kind of gave him the little signal down there. But I had a friend I was talking to. He was working with a team, and his daughter came into the video and just kind of lounged around like nothing was going on. And he said afterwards, people emailed him and texted him and said that was like the most important part of the call. It was the most like humanizing during this time because it just felt like real to them. So
Huge.
thought that was really good. Well, Todd,
Yeah.
that's good. That's helpful stuff. I always like to think about one takeaway. So, if someone's listening out there, if they did one thing today, what is it? You would recommend just being in tune with whoever you're in relationship, whether it's a team or a spouse or a roommate, or what would you say?
I'd say your opening is to start with curiosity.
Yeah.
Don't start with your agenda. Don't start with advocating for what you need done. There's a human on the other side of that video. And that human has a whole story happening right that day, that night, right in the moment that you have no clue about. So start with curiosity. Curiosity is just, hey, what is going on and how are you doing right now?
Yeah. And we're
And
seeing it more than ever right now, right? And we're in people's living
yes,
rooms and bedrooms and
yeah.
makeshift
And
offices.
I think if we build that habit of checking in with each other like that, we're going to find that that's such a really helpful connecting technique that that's gonna stay there and be integrated into our systems on the other side of this going forward.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right, Todd, good talking to you. We'll chat later.
Yep, you bet, Rhett.
Yeah. Bye.
Take care.